tell you, man, it does. I remember 7 years ago when I seriously was like the only guy in Northern Ohio that even knew what the hell Beachbody was. That's the truth. Like in my little hometown in Bellevue, Ohio, I picked up P90X before it was even a thing, right? Before like anyone even knew what it was. And I remember like hosting our first meetings, and it's crazy for me to think that here we are 7 years later. 7 years ago, it was me and 3 buddies, Nick Eisenhower, Dan Smith, a couple other guys that would come over and just have a little fit club, and we would talk about doing this Beachbody coach thing. And I got to tell you that, I mean, here's the deal. I never personally thought that it would transcend any of my original expectations, right? And to be here with all of you, and to see what is created out of when people take ownership of their own lives. I mean, and that really is what everyone in this room has done, and what the leaders have done. For me to show up at an event and realize, like, dude, I don't even really need to be here anymore. You know what I mean? It's incredible for me. I wondered if we would ever get to that point. And we're at such an exciting point in this network, because here's the thing. Our mission is to what? Help people. That's the first thing you have to remember. And Chris Ballmer said it perfectly. Our mission is to help people. We can think people, or we can think products. And if you think people, and you learn to serve people, all the rest of it will come. All the rest of it will come. But you might be sitting here today wondering, okay, what is the difference between the coaches that are up here giving a testimonial, the coaches that are in the screen, the coaches that are giving the presentations, the leaders that are rising up and hitting elite and saying, hey, you know, in 15 months I'm making $700 to $1,000 a week. And what's the difference between them and you? And I want you to write this down. The opportunity with Beachbody is the same regardless of who you are. Does that make sense? That Beachbody is the same, right? Beachbody itself is Beachbody. How many of you agree that whether I sell a P90 X3 challenge pack or you sell the X3 challenge pack, that it's the same friggin' challenge pack? The person is getting the same thing. Does that make sense? So what differentiates the coaches who are having great successes and the coaches who are maybe hitting the wall? I guarantee you that there's some of you that are putting your best foot forward and you're trying and you keep like hitting a brick wall and going, oh crap, that hurt, right? Why do I keep getting that objection? Why do I keep getting... The only difference between the coaches succeeding and you is this: time and skill. Time and skill. They've given it more time and they've learned a little bit more skills. We didn't start out. I remember, so I go back to before when Kathy Kandera was telling the story about Joe Gonzalez. I remember when Joe sponsored Kathy, he's like, dude, a year ago, before I knew anything, and when I really sucked at this, I talked to this lady at the gym, and I did it totally wrong. Like I vomited all of the things that I loved about P90X all over her, and like tried to force her to be a coach, and then I gave her my card. Right? And then a year later, he's like, dude, I'm so glad that I learned how to do this right, because now she's signing up, right? The fact is this: all of these top people, we have screwed it up over and over and over again. But we took ownership of those screw-ups, and then we trusted somebody who maybe knew a little bit more. Does that make sense? But I want you to write this down. I have a very simple, I started thinking about what can I say to you guys to understand really what it takes to succeed, and how simple can I make this for you? Because my money does not drive me anymore. It doesn't. There's a point in this whole thing where maybe money is your initial motivator, and when I left my insurance job making $200 a week as a Beachbody coach, before anything was guaranteed, before I was rolling in thousands of dollars a week as a team bonus, before any of that, it was like, oh shit, I gotta pay my mortgage, right? And there was that huge human need for financial survival, right? And so for a while that drove me and that motivated me, but then there's a point where those needs are taken care of. And then you have to ask yourself, what's going to continue to motivate you? And it always comes down to this: it comes down to other people. That the only thing that keeps me motivated is the fact that, you know what, if this has changed my life, if I've been able to lose 120 pounds, if I've been able to earn this kind of money, if I've been able to travel the world when it used to be that just a trip down to Columbus to watch a Buckeyes game was like a friggin' all-star weekend, right? How many of you agree with that? Like I remember going to Cedar Point, like that was my family vacation was going to an Olympic pool in the middle of Bellevue. It's like, we're getting to go to the community pool. Right? And to understand now that my daughter's life, who's 1 year old, is going to be completely different. Now it's going to be, let's go to Fort Lauderdale Beach, because we're moving there in 6 months. Right? But here's the fact is this: when I think about this thing, there's something that mentally goes on, okay? And I want you to write down this equation. I should, I can, and I will equals success. And if you feel like you're hitting a brick wall, it's because there's a gap. So there's a bridge over each one of these. It's sort of the mental process that we take ourselves through before we actually make the choice to go all in. Does that make sense? I want you to think about this. So the first thing we ask ourselves is, should I? Should I? You've been sitting here today, maybe all day today, you're like, man, I really need to do this. Or maybe some of you are like, you know what, not for me. Not a big deal. But the first part of that equation, in order to get to where you need to go, is the first question you ask yourself is this something I should do? Does that make sense? So some of you, maybe you haven't really connected the fact that this is something you should do. You haven't discovered your own personal reason why you should be motivated enough to go do this. That's the first part of the equation. The second part is this. I can. And this is where most coaches hit the brick wall. I just talked to Leanne Ruff, who earned the DSA for creating Coach Basics and now Emerald to Diamond, right? I just talked to her actually yesterday, and she told me they did a survey of new coaches, and there's the primary difference between new coaches who did great in the first 3 to 6 months and ones who didn't came down to one thing: confidence. Confidence, and that's all part of this section of the equation of I can, right? I can. And maybe you come with your own self-doubts and your own self-fears, like, you know, all these other people are succeeding, but I'm not as good as them, or I'm not as talented as them, or I'm not as pretty as them. And we start coming up with all of these our own excuses that get in the way. Does that make sense? So I can. And then I will. Once you decide that I should and I can and I will, that's when you start taking action, right? I will. I will. I don't care what it takes. I have to do this now. There's a reason big enough. I'm good enough. And there's no way in hell I'm not going to do this. We do this all the time. I mean, I want you to picture yourself. You go through this equation all the time, just subconsciously. You don't consciously think about it. How many of you ever go to the friggin' bathroom? How many of you took a pee today? Honestly, raise your hands. It's okay. Pee, poop, whatever. Okay? Oh, man. I should go to the bathroom. It's the first question you ask yourself. Do I need to go to the bathroom? Is there a should behind it, right? Then the second thing is, okay, well, I can go to the bathroom. If you're stuck in your car on the turnpike in traffic, chances are you can't go to the bathroom, so you choose not to, even if you have to. Does that make sense? But if there's a bathroom right out here, you go, oh, I can go. I had to go, so I got up and I went, right? Does that make sense? But you ask yourself this all the time with every decision that you make. Should I? Can I? Will I? And once all of those things, it's like a master lock, that once you make the decision in your own mind, you know, you can learn all this stuff. Okay, I gotta build a job. Be overwhelming. I gotta go to this page, and I gotta go to this meeting, and all that stuff. Listen, at the end of the day, it's your friggin' choice. It's your life to own. It's your business to own. And the only thing that differentiates you between other coaches who are successful is this. Those coaches made a choice that they should, they made a choice that they can, and they made a choice that they will, and they're the ones that are gonna change a lot of friggin' lives along the way, and they're gonna blast this mission to reverse obesity, because it's gonna happen. It's going to happen with or without you. I promise you that. I see it happening. I've been around since the beginning. I've been around that chart when it was like a slow, bleeding climb up this huge mountain. And all of a sudden now, we're into the side of the mountain. You guys seen that chart of how many coaches we have in this network? Have you seen that? Have you seen that explosive growth? Right? Okay? You know what that represents? That represents the mission becoming truth. That's what that represents. That there's a grassroots movement that's happening in this country, a grassroots movement to reverse the trend of obesity, to reverse the trend of financial struggle. And I understand that trend. I was homeless at age 11 with my mom. And if somebody would have just helped my mom make $500 more a month, she wouldn't have had to give me up. You have the power to help families. You have the power to change lives. You have it all right here, wrapped up in a pretty little gift. Why would you ever be the person to get in the way of someone else's destiny? Because you're afraid, and because you're scared, and because you haven't come to your own belief that it's worth it. Or because you've been getting in the way of other people's lives succeeding. I'm telling you right now, guys, listen to me. Great things happen in this world because of grassroots movements. That's what this is. It's a grassroots movement that's wrapped up in a pretty little banner of national recognition with programs like P90X and Insanity. That's all it is, but it's grassroots movements of good people like you, and good people like you, and good people like you, who have a belief that what we have changes lives. And our only job in this whole thing is to build a marching army of people who are excited about life, who are excited about changing their lives, who are excited about being advocates for a healthy lifestyle, a good lifestyle, based on good principles, and undoing all of the crap that everybody else put on our society. And you're part of that grassroots movement. And it's not a small thing. But it's up to you to own your part. It's up to you to own your team. It's up to you to own your vision. And it's up to you to own your skill and to keep showing up and to keep bringing people with you. Thank you for your time. It's time to just go kick ass with this thing, man. Because the next time I'm in Cleveland, Ohio, we're not going to be in this room. I promise you that. I got home memories. I'm so excited. Seriously, that's it. Drop the mic. Boom.